Let's get more on that top story now. Mark Bloomfield is president of the American Council for Capital Formation. He's in our Washington bureau now. Mark, good to talk to you. Thank you for your time. What are you hearing from your extensive contacts about the resignation of Gary Cohn?
One four-letter word: numb. People are numb. I just came from I have a Washington salon once a month, and there were 4 members of Congress, 4 journalists and business folks, and the one four-letter word was numb.
We were all wondering, I think, what four-letter word you were going to come up with. Numb in what sense? Why?
Just numb in terms of what happens next. And perhaps the best way to describe it is what the president said about Cohn. He was a raw talent. And one of the president's chief economic advisors in the campaign, Stephen Moore, said, a steady hand. So we've lost a raw talent, and we've lost a steady hand. So stay tuned.
As I'm sure you've been hearing, the president says what happens now is that he goes ahead with those tariffs, even though, as he says, many countries are threatening retaliation. He says trade wars aren't too bad. But there are quite a few people who are in his own party who are concerned about this, and I gather the aluminium industry as well.
I think David Ricardo is dead. Comparative advantage is still alive. The irony, of course, is there are some prominent Democrats from Rust Belt states who are supporting the president. At the same time, the Republican Party, which is the party of free trade, is trying to figure out what to do next.
Because I know Republicans have seen the tax cuts so far playing pretty well with taxpayers. But there is concern, isn't there, that tariffs could make it harder for some businesses in the U.S. and cause job losses.
No question. There are 2 fundamental, I think, positive things that happened under the administration. And that is reforming our tax system so we're competitive. And one thing that may not have been mentioned enough is tremendous regulatory reform. But of course, regulatory reform and tax reform could be brushed aside with the impact of another Smoot-Hawley. I hope not.
Mark, I know you've just been on the Hill just in the past hour or so. The president says there'll be no trouble filling these jobs. Loads of people want to work in the White House. But you look at the list of people who've left the White House: the chief of staff, the chief strategist, 2 deputy chiefs of staff. He's replaced the communications director, 3 times? The national security advisor has gone, the press secretary, now the chief economic advisor. He says this is not chaos, it's energy. How do you read it?
I think if you look at statistics, there's been more turnover in this administration in terms of the White House than there has been in prior ones. Now, having said that, he's an unusual person. I lived through the Watergate scandal. I lived through the Saturday Night Massacre, and Richard Nixon was also strange. But this is unsettling, no doubt about it.
Mark Bloomfield, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.